Hey everybody, my name is Kyler Flock and I am the Community Engagement Manager here at the Matthews Opera House. And I just want to welcome everyone to another edition of the Matthews Opera House Bellman Series podcast. Obviously with the virus, we still cannot host our Bellmans or really any sort of speaker series. And so we really wanted to just bring that programming to you in the safety of your own home. And so that's why we've been kind of transitioning to this podcast format. Today, we have a very special guest in the house, someone who's been involved with our organization since the day she moved to Spearfish for college. She's an actor, a volunteer, and an occasional employee of ours, the one and only Gabriella Hertz. By the time that this podcast airs, it's going to be June, and June is a very special month. It is Pride Month, and here at the Matthews Opera House, we really want to continue to push celebrating the equality, the history, and the progress that the LGBT community continues to strive for. And so I really wanted to take this time to talk with Gabby about her history as an actor and about being in the LGBT community, you know, and what that looks like here in Spearfish and how the arts plays a role in all of that. And so I really hope everyone enjoys today's episode. Thank you. So I'm here with Gabby Hertz. So Gabby, before we really get started, you know, the reason that we have you as a guest today is because you've been an actress and active in the arts community here in Spearfish pretty much since you got here. So why don't you tell me about kind of why you chose to come to Spearfish coming out of high school?
You know, it was close to my hometown, and I thought the campus was beautiful, and I had heard good things about the college. So I came up, and I found a really live community here in the performing arts. So.
Pretty fun going to school when Bert's your teacher too, isn't it?
Yeah,
right?
He's amazing. He's made the environment so nice to
Yes,
be in.
he has. Yeah. So for people who don't know, Bert is the theater professor up at BH, which was actually how Gabby and I met, was through some theater classes.
Sure was.
So speaking of that, you know, how were you introduced to acting, Gabby? And how old were you when you first started acting?
So, like, other than school plays that they force you into on the risers, my first real performance experience was through this program called PAW, Performing Arts Workshop, out of Gillette, Wyoming. And it was just this incredible 3-week program, and we got a show up and running in 3 weeks. And
what show was it?
My first show, it was, oh my goodness, Seussical the Musical. How could I forget?
How old were you when you were in Seussical the Musical?
Like 10 or 11, and I was so awkward. I was so shy.
So would you say... So since you were 10 or 11, you've been in theater involved this whole time?
Every year, yeah. Wow. Multiple shows for sure.
Yeah. What are some of the productions you remember like most vividly when you were in high school? Is there a certain one before college that was your favorite?
Yeah, a couple. We did Macbeth and we gender bent the roles.
Oh, that's cool.
So, you know, I had the chance to play Macbeth rather than like a Lady Macbeth or any of the other female characters.
Oh, yeah.
And so it was different, you know, it was a different approach to it, so that was fun. And
yeah, getting kind of experimental with... Actually, speaking of that, the first time I ever saw you act was in the same situation. Women playing Hamlet when you were a freshman. Yeah, and you played the hilarious, like, stoner bicycle guy.
There was just these little parts that were stock characters, and
I remember being like, who is this girl? And she is hilarious. Yeah, that was kind of my first introduction to seeing you act. So how many productions would you say you've been in since moving to the hills?
So like for the semester, you know, at least two a year, so times 3, 6. Summer shows 9, and then you count one act, so you know, 20 I could at least. Yeah, you know,
that's pretty crazy that you've done roughly 20 plays, and you've been here for only 3 years.
Yeah, you know, and I'm counting the one acts, you know. Nonetheless, yeah.
And that includes what's the program that you guys do at the college with the one acts where you write them in a day, direct them with students.
Sudden Impact.
Sudden Impact.
Not even including those ones.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Sudden Impact and that program?
It is just 48 hours of absolute chaos, but it's so beautiful. So we go there. Bert picks directors, actors, and plays out of a hat. He assigns them randomly. And then we all just get together and we learn it as best as we can. And the next day, we put on the show.
So just Beautiful chaos all in one little weekend.
Chaos.
I can actually attest to that because my last year in college, I actually helped with that.
I remember that you
that
did
was pretty fun.
The whole on the couch thing.
I did, yeah. That's
cool
right.
Show.
That was a fun little play. Kylie was in that. So shout out to Kylie.
Yeah, Kylie Jones.
Yeah. So speaking of that, what would, I was kind of mentioned, my first time seeing you in some of your comedic roles, would you say that you have a character you like to play or workshop, or would you like to say that you kind of approach every role with a different perspective or look?
So I definitely have been casted in and enjoy playing stock character roles. Yeah. So just the ones that are kind of stereotypical, like the stoner biker. Mm-hmm. The ones that are really easy to channel, man. Yeah. Just stupid stuff. So yeah, the approach is just stock character roles typically.
Yeah. Would you rather play one of those kind of characters than maybe a serious role?
I think it depends on like the message. If it was a topic that I was really passionate about, I would not mind. In fact, I enjoy doing serious plays too. So yeah,
actually, the one play that I was in with you was in a pretty serious, including Shooter. It was a whole play on school shootings, which was during a time when
that was really prevalent.
Yeah, unfortunately, still sort of prevalent, but
absolutely,
maybe not as much now with some other problems going on. But did you do you approach those roles with the same sort of enthusiasm, or is it harder to get in those darker roles, or
equal enthusiasm? But yeah, I feel like it takes more time with those characters to really understand because you don't want to be a method actor where you feel and do everything that character is doing constantly, but you definitely have to put yourself in that headspace to be authentic.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's sometimes kind of daunting to put yourself in those kind of scary situations, like with including Shooter or some of your other serious roles, but yeah. And how many times do you think you've been on the Matthews stage
to perform?
Yeah.
As far as like shows go, and not like counting individual performances, only 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, but you were in one of the Matthews staple performances with Phantom of the Matthews Opera House. For anybody who was catching any summer shows last year in the Matthews, Gabby was the lead role. Mary, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you think of Phantom of the Matthews?
I thought that it was a fun experience, and I enjoyed being a part of something that's been annual for the Matthews Opera House.
It's pretty cool how there's so much history behind that show. If it weren't for that show, we might not be acting in the Opera House right now. The original people who kind of got that going is kind of what helped get the Matthews back. Yeah. So it's kind of cool that, you get to continue that legacy, right? For sure. It's definitely different than, a modern play, but it's got some
it's definitely
fun, just pretty catchy tunes and some nice
big on humor. Those stock roles and the melodrama.
Melodrama, that's right.
It was
about stereotypical of that. Yeah.
It was a challenge for sure. It was totally a different experience, but a good one nonetheless. Yeah. I learned a lot.
Yeah, because you also last summer were working for us too, so you were kind of in the Opera House all summer. Mm-hmm. Festival and Phantom, and then just kind of we got as much work out of you as we could, didn't we?
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. It was a good time.
Yeah, exactly. So, as we know, it's June, just Pride Month. Yeah. Do you want to kind of describe to me what Pride Month means to you?
Well, Pride Month, it's just the LGBT has a Pride Month because it's I don't even know how to describe it. It's just like it's because that community hasn't always been able to be out and proud and loud and authentic to themselves. So it's like I feel like this month is a dedication to the people who, rioted at the Stonewall riots. It's a dedication to them. And it's just a big celebration of being who you are.
It is, yeah. And would you say, whether it's here, whether it's back home in Gillette, whether it's anywhere, what would you describe how Pride Month has either grown or not grown? How have you watched it change since you were young to now?
Well, when I was young, like when I first realized that Pride Month meant something specific to me, in middle school, it was kind of, it didn't exist for me in my community very much. It was kind of hush hush. It wasn't discussed. It just either were or you weren't.
Right.
And now it's more so, it's become this, it's something that I look forward to because I know what it means for me to be able to have that privilege to go out and celebrate. That's
pretty powerful, right?
Yeah.
To have that feeling of how it, because I would agree. I mean, I can remember as a kid it being, something that it seemed like only some knew about, that June was Pride Month, where I feel like now, as soon as June rolls around, I get a little bit more of a general, I mean, I will have to applaud a lot of the companies and things out there who are, but at the same time, sometimes you wonder, what are you really going to, is this just because it's
support the
June?
Community, or is it just corporate?
How do you describe, how do you feel about that when organizations and corporations, promote Pride Month, but maybe don't follow through?
Okay, so I think it's awesome because in a sense, there's no bad publicity, right?
Right.
But at the same time, it's like we have Pride Month for very specific reasons. Again, to celebrate the authenticity of the people who made it to where we can be who we are. But at the same time, it's like, it's like any other holiday. It's like Valentine's Day. You don't love your partner for one day a year. You love them every day of the year. So it's like you should constantly be supporting, the LGBTQ plus community, etc.
I love that. That's a perfect way to put it. Where, yes, on Valentine's Day, we all like to treat our significant others special. But
of course,
the idea is we do that all year.
Right.
And forever.
Otherwise,
it's
not
I like that.
Real,
yeah,
so.
That's a really good way to put it. So, can you tell me a little bit about some of your involvement in the LGBT community or clubs, or, what's that like on campus? What's the...
Well, we have a really cool Pride group. Every year they're doing... They have these really creative ideas just to basically get people into the group and talking with people that are different or similar to them, So that community on campus is present. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's not something that I feel like is hidden in some obscure corner. So that's a step forward.
Very much so. I feel like I see them present on campus and vocal, which is really good to hear.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Now, would you say, whether it's on campus or in the community, because I know, when I was a student, it was hard to know what was kind of going on in the community because you get so wrapped up on campus. Yeah. So maybe we'll go with campus. What would you say, has there been in the community or campus progression or regression with Pride Month, accepting the LGBT community, kind of just the general awareness? Would you say you've seen it stay the same, get better?
I know what you're getting at.
Right.
I guess I want to preface this next comment with, this is my subjective experience, and, my experience isn't going to be the same as somebody else's in the community. But, I feel like it's good. I feel like there are small progressions, or advancements in having that kind of normalcy with the LGBT plus community in everyday life. But there's still definitely like subtle discrimination or subtle things that are uncomfortable if you are gay, lesbian, transgender, etc. Yeah. So for that kind of long-winded answer, it's good, but there's always room for improvement. Like, why stop here?
Of course. And I would say, I completely agree. And I think a couple little things that I've seen in the last couple of years that make me more optimistic toward the future is like some of the new groups in town working on Make Space, who's a friend of the Matthews. They're another arts group here in town. Their big push is equity. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, and they've been doing a lot of talks. And, I really got to give a shout out to the Make Space crew for keeping those topics relevant and keeping the community really aware. And I think that's a a really safe haven to go and kind of just learn more about the community, especially for someone like myself who might not know as much about the LGBT community or history, you know? And so I'm really excited to keep seeing. I know they've already been doing a few programs for Pride Month, and I love to just, but you know, they keep that topic relevant, you know.
And that's so important, because it's like the conversation needs to continue, because, you know, even being in the community, there's so much that I don't know about. Like, I didn't learn until just last year that the whole reason why we really have the rights that we do today is because of the Stonewall riots.
Yeah.
There were riots. It was aggressive. It was oppression. And it was just this, you know, combustion of awesomeness that has led to this, you know?
Yeah, pretty powerful stuff that has really kind of shaped American history as we know it a little bit. I just, you know, this time of year, it's always a really interesting conversation to bring back up of, okay, you know, what are the next steps, or how can we continue to do better? So what are some admirations of yours, of like dreams of, you know, what either Pride Month or our LGBT community can work toward, or like, especially with the general population, you know, what are some steps?
Some steps would just be to like continue having LGBT content in our media forms, you know, and making that normal. You know, I don't want to hear people saying, well, why does it have to have a gay character in it? Well, why does it have to be like that? Because it needs to be like that, because they are just as much a part of our community, and they exist. They're people. Right. You know, it's like that's like one of the most disheartening things as somebody who's lesbian, or, well, for me, that's one of the most disheartening things as a lesbian, you know, that I don't see as many gay characters in shows, you know, and it makes you feel even weirder than you already do. Right.
You know, it's nice, I'm sure, to have a voice, or like, well, you know, we want our shows to depict who we are. Exactly. And where are they, right? Because the community's here. And so whether it's TV, movies, every aspect, you know, you want a representation, right? Right. Well, and, you know, the media shows and plays and music, they tell stories. Well, then I want to see, you know, these medias telling everybody's stories, you know, and it's like, so, you know, these little boys and girls who are, you know, starting to realize that there's something a little bit different. They're a little bit different in this heteronormal society, that they can be like, oh, there are other girls like me. Like, oh, I shouldn't be ashamed of this. This is just something that, you know, is unfortunately still a little bit ahead of its time. Right. Yeah. So, I love what you said about telling a story, because I think, you know, one of the main reasons that I was excited to have this conversation with you is, one, it keeps this idea going of just having conversation. I think that's one of the best ways to clarify where we all are, is just by doing what you and I are doing right now, and just sitting down and talking about these things, and not arguing or not coming in with pre-notion thoughts. But another thing is this idea of the arts. And I wanted to kind of talk about and get your input on, like, you know, the relationship between the arts and the LGBT. Like, have you found that there's a strong correlation there, or how can you describe that? You know, because you look historically, and, you know, there are so many prevalent figures who have merged the two into, and I think art does a great way of explaining everyone's stories. And I like seeing when, you know, these kind of issues, whether it's LGBT, race, anything like that, when you can use art to tell that story. It's just like, you know, can you maybe talk about that? Right. Well, I don't know. So kind of like what I said earlier, like art, any kind of art, whether it's dance, music, performing arts, photography, it tells a story. And so naturally, stories that aren't getting told, like the minority stories or oppression stories, etc., you know, why wouldn't they gravitate toward the performing arts or any kind of art forms? Because they're getting a platform to tell their story. Right. You know what I mean? And or you get to express yourself. You get to put your passion and your feelings into something so concrete, and you get to share that. It's so,
I mean, the relationship is really just a match made.
Yeah.
You know, you get, I mean, and even like the simplest things that might be overlooked, like boys who just want to freaking paint their nails or wear makeup. Like who the heck cares, right?
Yeah.
But in theater, it's expected.
Right.
You go in there and you put your eyeliner on. If not, you'll be drowned out in, you know, performing lights.
Yeah.
So it's just it's a community that disregards gender roles. It well, maybe not in all the content or literature, but
right. It's like a safe haven, you know?
It should be, and that's what it's been for me.
Right.
At least.
I will speak on my brief experience with being involved at BH Theater, or just the arts at BH. My last year in college, you know, when I started getting involved with you guys and Bert,
right.
It felt like such a welcoming community of just good kids and a great teacher. And I've just kind of always felt that with the arts up at BH about how it's not only just promoting whatever art form that you're interested in, whether it's painting, singing, acting, but I also feel like once you walk into that classroom or on stage, everybody's ideas or pre-notion thoughts are kind of wiped away. And that's what I've loved about the arts. That's why I love, you know, working here is it's in this building. I always feel like kind of whoever you are, be that. And I think it kind of just speaks to the arts. Like you were saying, it's this community that you guys...
Well, there's a place for everybody here. You know what I mean? It's, I mean, especially... you know, just theater. I mean, like, okay, so obviously I'm pushing performing arts theater, like, because that's my passion. You know, it's like there's a job for everybody. You know, you need your actors, you need your technicians, you need people to hand out pamphlets in the front of the building. Yeah. You need people to clean. So it's just like there's a spot for anybody, and I don't know, it's just an amazing place to be. So
yeah, I would agree. So Let's do a fun little thing here. I want you to finish this statement. So now is the time to blank. What would is anything?
Keep continuing the conversation. Keep discussing. Keep educating yourself. You know, so dialogue, I guess.
That's a good way to put that. So, you know, in your own words, can you describe to me why it is important to treat people equally? I know it's a big one, and I know it's an obvious one.
Why is it important to treat people equally? Because
in your own words.
If you're not treating somebody equally, if you're treating somebody like that they are less than you, then you're existing with this notion that for some reason you're better than him or her or they, them. But guess what? You're not.
Right.
You know what I mean? So why is it important? Because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I guess that's really a basic and almost...
But it's something we forget about is the crazy thing that we do need to treat each other equally. And it's the slightest little differences in people just sometimes can create so much tension. And, you know, I just...
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally understand. You know, there's been situations, especially when I was younger, you know, like in my teen years, you know, I'd have friends who their parents were cool with me. They thought I was this great kid until they found out I was gay. And then it was, oh, I don't know how I feel about you hanging out. You know, it's like,
why does that have to change
you
your
don't gotta treat
whole
me differently
thought
now.
on me, right?
Yeah, you know, so it's, just treat people as if you just gotta, we're not that different.
No,
we're not that different.
Right, we're both sitting here right now having a conversation just like any other conversation, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So I guess kind of before we wrap this up, you know, is there anything else you'd like to highlight or emphasize or, you know, just discuss or bring up?
I guess to anybody who has like reservations about the LGBTQ plus community, like ask yourself why you might have those reservations. What experiences have you had that have shaped your thought of that community today? And then challenge them. Why? When? Is that right? Okay, what does this say about me more than what it says about them? You know, so, I mean, I guess the closing statement is just to keep challenging yourself to be educated and to understand the people from that community who really are not much different than you.
Right. Well, that's a perfect way to end things, is just keeping that conversation going, always trying to stay aware, and just kind of overall just bettering ourselves every day. And it's really all we can do in these trying times, right?
For sure.
Yeah. Well, Gabby, I want to thank you again for joining me. This was a fun conversation, and I think we hit a lot of really interesting points and fun points, and this was a fun conversation.